Remember the early days of the pandemic? That mad scramble for masks, the absolute uncertainty about getting even the most basic medical supplies? Well, today, we're going to dig into how one country didn't just survive that chaos. It completely rebuilt its entire medical strategy right in the middle of it. And in doing so, it created a blueprint that, honestly, the rest of the world is now watching very, very closely.
So that brings us to the big question, right? How on earth do you rebuild an entire supply chain basically from scratch while a global crisis is raging all around you? I mean, it sounds almost impossible, but that's exactly the story we're going to unpack today.
For decades, the whole logic of global trade was pretty simple. If we connect all our economies together, we make war so expensive, so interconnected, that it just becomes unthinkable. But that foundation, the one we all thought was solid as a rock, well, it's cracking. We can see the cracks forming right before our eyes.
And look at this. This chart tells you so much of the story. Back in 1945, the West, Europe, and the US, they made up a staggering 80% of the world economy. Today, that number has plummeted to 45%. Now, this isn't just some numbers on a chart. This is proof that the old economic order is pretty much history.
So what does that actually mean for us, day to day? Well, it means the old rulebook has been thrown out. Trade wars, geopolitical risks, that's just the new normal. And in this new age of uncertainty, leaders around the world are coming to the same conclusion. Self-sufficiency isn't just a good idea, it's the key to survival.
And of course, nothing, absolutely nothing, drove this lesson home harder than the pandemic. It was a brutal global wake-up call for every single one of us.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? We all saw it happen. So-called allies literally seizing each other's shipments of masks on airport tarmacs. We saw nations hoarding vaccines, making sure their own people were safe before anyone else. It was a really bitter pill to swallow, but it revealed this simple, powerful truth.
So, the pandemic basically delivered three truths that felt like a slap in the face. First, those global supply chains we all depended on, they were hanging by a thread. They were built for just-in-time efficiency, not for resilience. Second, depending on other countries for things you desperately need, well, that's a massive national security vulnerability. And that leads to the third point, making your own stuff, domestic production. It's not a luxury anymore, it's an absolute necessity.
Okay, so while the rest of the world was grappling with all this chaos, what was Turkey up to? This is where the story gets really interesting, because while everyone else was reacting, Turkey was quietly pulling off a full-blown healthcare revolution. Let's take a look.
All right, let's turn back the clock a bit. The year is 2002. Take a look at this number. Turkey's total medical exports were just $14 million. Okay? Just $14 million. Keep that number in your head. Now, let's fast forward to today. That $14 million, it has skyrocketed to over 1.4 times billion dollars. That is a 100-fold increase, 100 times. You just don't see that kind of growth, that kind of success story in almost any industry. It's truly incredible.
And here's the result of all that growth. This amazing progress, plus Turkey's strategic location, has turned the country into a genuine regional health hub. From there, you can reach 1.5 billion people in just a 4-hour flight. Think about that reach.
So the big question is, how did they do it? How did Turkey actually pull off this massive transformation? Well, the secret sauce is in their very deliberate domestic and national blueprint.
The entire philosophy really comes down to these three core pillars: protect, develop, and produce. The goal was never just about buying what they needed from other countries. No, the vision was to build a completely self-sufficient ecosystem that could not only take care of its own citizens, but could also produce and sell its technology to the whole world.
And one of the key tools they build to make this happen is this digital platform called Health Market. Think about it. Instead of hundreds of hospitals all buying their own supplies, creating waste and confusion, this platform centralizes all of it. It streamlines everything, cuts down on waste, and ensures quality is the same across the entire country.
And when it comes to quality, they are not messing around. Just look at this 4-step process. Every single medical supply has to go through this gauntlet. First, only licensed suppliers can even apply. Then experts examine samples one by one. The products are checked again when they arrive at the hospital. And get this, they even do random lab tests on samples after they've been used. Safety is clearly the absolute top priority.
But here's the thing. This whole strategy isn't just about fixing the mistakes of the past. No, the real vision here is about the future. It's not about healing old wounds. It's about weaving a protective shield against the crises that we all know are coming. This slide really captures the whole shift in thinking perfectly. We're moving away from being reactive, oh no, a pandemic hit, what do we do now, to being proactive. The goal now is to use technologies like AI to crunch all sorts of data, health reports, travel patterns, you name it, to actually forecast the next outbreak and predict what supplies will be needed before the crisis even hits.
Ultimately, this whole story, this entire strategy, it all boils down to one fundamental choice that Turkey is making. When the next crisis comes, will it be a country that waits, totally dependent on others for help, or will it be a country that leads, that manages the crisis for itself and for its entire region? Every single part of this blueprint is designed to make that second option a reality.
And that leads us to our final critical question. The strategy is there, the incredible growth is undeniable, but the ultimate success of this ambitious vision, well, that's still unfolding. So, is a Turkey like this, a self-sufficient, proactive, regional health leader, is it truly possible in this new world order? That's the question worth watching.